Welcome back to this episode where we will be talking about arguments and parameters in functions. Let's create a function and give it the name of calculator. Inside the parentheses of our function, we could add variables. And whenever you put variables inside the parentheses, they are not called variables anymore, but parameters. Parameters are used to hold the values executable during runtime. And the function can take as many parameters as it wants, but you need to separate them with a comma. So let's say that we want to do a multiplication inside our function and call it in our application. So we need to pass in two parameters. The first one is called num1 and the second one is called num2. Right now we created two parameters. Let me add that as a comment. So an argument is a value passed to a function and the parameter is used to hold those arguments. So you probably might wonder, what on earth is the difference? Well, there isn't, because they're both the same. But you need to keep in mind, for every parameter, we need to pass an argument. So let's create two variables at the top of our document. And let's call it num1 is equal to 5 and num2 is equal to 5. I showed you in the previous episode how you could call your function by simply writing down the function name with a set of parentheses and a semicolon. In the parentheses, we need to add arguments because the parameters need to be set equal to something because right now they have no value. So we want to pass in num1 and num2 again. What we did right here is we created arguments. So let's start over again and let me explain to you what we did. So we created two variables, num1 and num2, and we set them both equal to 5. We created a function called calculator where we want to calculate the multiplicity of two numbers. In order to do that, we need to pass in two parameters inside our function, which we did. If we run it right now, you can see that nothing's happening. So below our function, we called our function and we're passing in two arguments. So the values of the two arguments are the same as the two values of the parameters. So let's go inside our function and actually do something. Let's say that we want to echo out the multiplicity of num1 and num2. Let's save it, refresh the browser, and the output is 25. There's also something else, and you can set a default value for the parameters that we have. And it's pretty handy if we do not pass any argument for the parameter with a default value. So what PHP will do then is to use the default value, so it won't return an error message. So let's say that we want to create a default value for num2. The way you do that is going inside your parentheses of the function and set it equal to a value. So let's say that we want to set it equal to 20. If we save it and refresh it, you can see that the output is still 25, because the argument will override the default value. So let's remove the second argument, and let's save it and refresh the browser, and you can see that the output is 100. PHP is using our default value now, because there's no second argument. And this can also be done for all parameters. So let's say that we want to set num1 equal to 5, and let's remove the argument. Let's save it, refresh the browser, and the output is 100, even though we haven't added any arguments. So let me show you what will happen if we do not specify an argument. Let's remove the default value of num2, and let's add num1 as an argument. Let's save it, refresh the browser, and let me zoom out. And you can see that we're getting an error message because argument 2 for the function calculator, and it's called in, well, right here, is missing. Thank you for watching this episode, and I will be seeing you in the next one.